Hey everyone, we are jumping right into some major news that has huge implications for presidential power. A federal appeals court just dropped a landmark ruling on tariffs, and we're going to break down exactly what they decided and why this is such a big deal.
So here is the headline, plain and simple. The United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit has officially declared a series of presidential tariffs unlawful. This is a massive, powerful statement from one of the most important courts in the country on this issue.
All right, first things first, let's really unpack the decision itself. Who made this call and what gives it so much legal weight?
The ruling came down with a really decisive 7-4 vote. So you can see, this wasn't some narrow 5-4 squeaker, it was a pretty clear statement from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit.
Now, that strong majority is even more important because this decision was made by what's called an en banc panel. And what that means is, it wasn't just a small group of 3 judges hearing the case. No, this was the entire court weighing in. Courts only do this for the really big, important legal questions, and it gives the final decision maximum authority.
Okay, so to really get why the court ruled this way, we have to look at the one specific law that's at the absolute heart of this entire legal battle. It's an Emergency Powers Act.
The law in question is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA for short. This law gives the president the power to regulate international trade, but, and this is a big but, only after declaring a national emergency. This was the exact legal hook the administration used to justify these tariffs in the first place.
So let's actually look at what the law says. IEPA allows the president to do a whole lot of things. Investigate, block, prohibit. You can see regulate is right there on the list. But look closely at what is not on this list. The word tariff or duty or tax, it's just not there. It's nowhere to be found. And that little omission, well, that's what this entire case is about.
And that brings us to the core legal fight. Believe it or not, this entire multi-million-dollar legal battle, argued in front of a full federal court, all came down to how you interpret that one single word: regulate. So the huge question the court had to answer was this: when Congress gave the president the power to regulate trade during an emergency, did that automatically include the power to impose tariffs, which, let's be honest, are basically just a tax on things coming into the country? As you might guess, the two sides saw this completely differently. The government argued that, hey, regulate is a super broad term, and a tariff is just one of many tools you can use to, well, regulate trade. But the court, they completely disagreed. They found that tariffs are a form of taxation, and the general power to regulate something does not automatically grant you the very specific and powerful ability to tax it. And the court was really clear about this in its written opinion. I mean, listen to this quote directly from the ruling. Notably, when drafting IEPA, Congress did not use the term tariff or any of its synonyms like duty or tax. For these judges, the words Congress chose not to include were just as telling as the words it did. And the court didn't just stop there. They did their homework. They looked at a bunch of other laws and found a really clear pattern. Basically, when Congress wants to give the president the power to set tariffs, it says so, loud and clear. It uses explicit words like tariff or duties. And on top of that, those laws almost always include specific limits: how high the tariff can be, how long it can last. IEPA has none of that.
So this whole debate over one word, it really blows up into a much bigger issue, one that goes to the heart of our Constitution. The court argued this wasn't just about reading a law. It's about the fundamental separation of powers between the branches of government.
And the stakes here are, well, they're enormous. According to the government's own numbers, these tariffs could bring in revenue starting at $2.3 trillion. That's trillion with a T. The court basically said that a decision with that kind of economic firepower needs crystal clear permission from Congress, not something based on a, quote, wafer-thin interpretation of a single word. Ultimately, the court tied its ruling all the way back to the guys who wrote the Constitution. The power to tax, to control the nation's purse, as they say, is explicitly given to Congress. They even quoted James Madison, hammering home the point that this power belongs to the legislative branch for a very specific reason: to prevent the executive branch from getting too powerful.
Okay, so the court has spoken. The tariffs are unlawful. So what happens now? Do they just disappear tomorrow? Well, not exactly. Let's walk through the next steps.
So here's the play-by-play. The court made its 7-4 ruling, but they've hit the pause button on their official order until October 14th. This gives the government a window to appeal the decision to the Supreme Court. So the biggest takeaway for right now is this. Until this whole appeal process plays out, the tariffs actually remain in effect. Nothing changes today.
So as we wait to see if this case heads to the Supreme Court, it leaves us with this really fundamental question about the balance of power in our government. It forces us to ask, where exactly is the line between a president's power to regulate and Congress's exclusive power to tax? And maybe more importantly, who gets to be the one to draw that line?